Hello, this is T. Chapman 500, and today I'm going to be talking about the differences between steering ratio and steering lock. Now, I've run up NASCAR Racing 2003 to demonstrate steering ratio, which, by the way, also is available in iRacing. And what this does, the first number tells you how many units you have to turn the wheel to get 1 unit of front wheel steering. In this case, it's 20 to 1, and I do not know the size of the units because NASCAR Racing 2003, for some reason, doesn't have this information about how far you can turn your physical wheel. By the way, I set my steering range, which is in the Logitech gaming software, to 900 degrees, which is the full rotation range. So I'm going to start by increasing this number to 32 to 1. Now, watch what happens when I turn the wheel all the way to one side. So this is 90 degrees, 180 degrees, which, by the way, this is the physical wheel that's turned 180 degrees, 270 degrees, 360 degrees, and 440 degrees, with the last 10 degrees being a null zone that isn't registered. Oh, and by the way, you might have noticed, so this is about 360 plus an additional, say, 20 degrees, or more like 10. The visual wheel is not turning any further with the physical wheel. Now, let's see what happens when we try to turn around. So I'm going to turn the wheel all the way to the right, and I want you to take note on where we end up once I am pointing almost exactly backwards on the track. Okay, we're at the wall. I kind of thought we had a little bit more space to play with, but we don't. Now let's turn this number down all the way to the minimum setting. Now watch what happens. Watch where we end up with full rotation of the wheel. We are about we are about a third of the way from pit road to the racing surface. So, a lot tighter. And the result of this? Here's a turn using minimum steering ratio. The physical wheel turned barely 45 degrees. And I have almost no steering input on the straights. Now, maximum setting. Notice I had to turn the wheel quite a bit further than on the other one. So, if you want a very forgiving car, then crank this up to maximum. If you want a very twitchy car, perhaps you want to gain confidence in your ability to control the car, maybe tighten this up a bit. Okay, so we are now in rFactor, and I want to bring your attention to this steering lock setting. Now this, instead of describing how many units of steering input to turn the front wheels 1 unit, this describes how many degrees the front wheels will turn when the steering wheel is turned all the way to one side. So at maximum steering input, the front wheels will turn 20 degrees with this setting. Now this will have the opposite effect from steering ratio, whereas steering ratio will make the car more forgiving with higher numbers. Steering lock will make the car twitchier with higher numbers. Allow me to demonstrate that. Minimum setting. Watch where I end up when I turn the wheel all the way to the right at minimum setting. So I'm almost all the way to the racing surface. Now if I turn this to maximum setting, turn the wheel all the way to the right, and we just hit the wall. The car basically turned on a dime. So here's a lap with maximum steering lock. So as you can see, not much wheel movement, maybe 90 degrees at most. Now I've turned it down to minimum, and we're going to see something quite different. So here is a lap with minimum steering lock. Almost hit the wall there.
That was a 50 point.
So as you can see, I used almost the entire rotation range of my steering wheel on that lap just by setting the steering lock to an insanely low value. In fact, unless you have a wheel that only turns 90 degrees, I wouldn't even bother with a steering lock this low. In fact, the steering lock was so low that I actually hit the wall because it took more input to get the car to turn than what I was anticipating. So there is a practical limit simply because of how much you might be anticipating needing to turn the wheel, and also how forgiving or twitchy you want the car to be. Now, we are using the road course of the same track. "5 degrees, and we can't even get out of the garage." So yeah, this is definitely impractical. In fact, we can barely make this corner. We should be able to go much faster than that. So, if because of your steering ratio or steering lock, you cannot even make a turn at full speed. Yeah, I know that this is a slightly faster turn than what we did there. Yeah, if you can't even navigate a track at full speed, then you definitely need to change the setting. So we're going to go with a higher setting, slightly higher. And we hit the garage wall. Let's try that again. There we go. Made it out of the garage without hitting anything. So now, I actually skid the tires. I turned a bit too much, and the car couldn't turn because of that. So you can see the speed difference there, and especially here. We have no trouble making this corner. And in fact, I was in the wrong gear. So that's what a higher steering lock does. So I turned the wheel about 90 degrees there, but I'm able to navigate the circuit with this. If it turns out to be a little bit too twitchy for your taste, then you can always make it a bit more forgiving, either by increasing the ratio or decreasing the lock range. But that's basically it. And it's completely up to your preference per track, how you like things to be set up. And whenever there's a fixed setup race, the one thing that's always available is the steering ratio or the steering lock, because that's a matter of driver preference, and unless you make it ridiculously low, you will always be able to navigate the track. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and share, and I will see you in the next episode. This is T Chapman 500 signing off.